Let's do the deep dive here because Garp's Galaxy Impact is one hell of a move. Over the past year or so, ever since last year, April, when it first dropped in chapter 1080, and then recently in episode 1114, Garp's Galaxy Impact across the board is stunning, especially in the anime, where the anime, it's not Oda's vision. No. But man, I just don't give a. It is a beautiful, it is an epic as hell attack. The attack itself almost having nuclear properties where it's just completely wastelanding, melting away all these buildings, and the after effects and the shockwaves and Garp's pose in the air with the hockey on his face, it looks phenomenal in the anime. And in the manga, that almost Whitebeard-like cone bubble, and you see these thick black Conqueror's hockey bolts coming from the buildings themselves, and then Garp's follow-up punch pose in the air. It's incredible. And of course, that epic as hell dome suffix, yeah, the manga slaps and the anime slaps even harder. But how strong is the attack? It is undeniable that it looks really appealing, but how strong is Garp's Galaxy Impact in earnest? And no, it won't be, oh my god, well, Galaxy's in the name. No.
We don't do that here.
I have in the past talked about this before, but only in bits and pieces in other videos and streams. So I figured, okay, let me do an actual dedicated video for the Garp Galaxy Impact in a fair power scaling, similar to what I did for Rob Lucci earlier this year. And if you don't know, now you know. You can peep that video, boom, over here after this video. And also, if you do support your boy's content at large, make sure to give your boy a thumbs up. We do have content on the Patreon, on various channels, the Cole Plus channel, the Cole Requiem channel, the Cole San YouTube channel, and there's more to come. That all being said, let's dive into this. Let's get into this. And something I feel I need to do in order to uphold the idea of having a fair power scale is I'm going to actually gauge the anime attack and the manga attack separately. So I said before here that the anime version is not Oda's vision of what he did in the manga version. The attacks themselves actually function differently in the anime version compared to the manga version. Now, you can say, hold on, but it's the same attack, so why just kind of grade it the same? Which I could, yeah, I definitely could. However, for this fair power scaling, there has to be a lot of guesswork because even though Garp is destroying a pretty large area with the attack itself, he's not destroying, let's say for example, the entire island in a single go. No, one. Two, a lot of the fodder, they do survive in the plaza. They're still there, angry at Garp and yapping at Garp and so on and so forth. So a lot of guesswork has to be done here to gauge how powerful the move is. It's actually more guesswork in the manga version than it is in the anime version. So let's tackle the anime version first. In the anime version, episode 1114, Garp's Galaxy Impact is, again, it's incredible. So we don't want to get too much in the weeds here when it comes to the numbers of things, because I don't have the video be like, 45 minutes long. But essentially speaking, a lot of the buildings in the plaza that Garp wastelanded, a lot of them could be comparable to giants in size. That would be around 20 meters or around 70 feet tall. In the latest chapter of One Piece, 1126, we do see San Juan Wolf, who is 180 meters tall. That's 590 feet. Pick up a lot of these buildings as if they were toys. So San Juan Wolf is huge, but you can kind of see how comparable a lot of the buildings are in the area to San Juan Wolf. And to be fair, a lot of these buildings are also approaching the number giant size, taller than Dorian Brogy, but then some of them are also smaller than Dorian Brogy. Now, Oda scaling is Oda scaling, so I don't want to harp on that too much. Just keep in mind that a lot of these buildings, again, are around the size of giants. And when you actually kind of roll through the anime, maybe I'm off of the numbers, it's possible here, but when Garp does his attack, he is melting over 90 buildings. Over 90 buildings in a single attack in the anime. The anime goes really over the top with that attack and the effects. So to be crystal clear here, it's more like over half of the buildings that we see get destroyed during that attack, and then other ones also get semi-melted / blown away because of the sheer force of the attack. So most of them got melted, but not necessarily all of them. And melting the buildings did not happen at all in the manga. But that's very important here, because for fairness sakes, hence fair power scaling, there is a difference between destroying something, like bringing it apart, cutting it in half, pulverizing it to dust, and then melting it or completely disintegrating it. It takes a lot more energy to disintegrate a building compared to cutting it in half. Both attacks are destroying a building. One outputs more power because disintegrating takes more energy, therefore it's more powerful than cutting it in half. Though keep in mind that the exact number of buildings that we see Garp destroy in the anime, it's hard to actually know how many. I say 90 plus, but it could be easily in like the 120 buildings that we see get destroyed in the anime. And the first impact is where most of the melting occurs. Let's say it's 100 plus buildings, for argument's sake. That's still only like a small fraction of a city like Tokyo, where Tokyo has 1,600 large-scale office-sized buildings. So the attack is melting a lot of buildings, for sure. But its area of effect, its AoE, is not encompassing the entire city of Tokyo, a very large city. And we also have to keep in mind, too, that the area was set up for Garp to unleash maximum damage because Kujaku was whipping the buildings into a circular area around the plaza. So if not for her, the number of buildings that Garp destroyed probably would have been a lot less. Keep in mind that when Garp was training for Dan Chinjao, he destroyed several mountains just to train, and the level of haki that Garp is emitting in this moment compared to the Dan Chinjao moment is vastly superior. So did he destroy, let's say, the mountains over the course of one attack, one moment, or let's say over the course of days? We're not too sure. But the idea is that based on past history in the story of One Piece, you could then gauge what Garp has done then to what Garp is doing now, uptick the level of power because Garp is generating more haki for the Galaxy Impact compared to that Dan Chinjao clash. Though, to be fair, Garp is physically weaker compared to that point in time too. So when we upscale, I'll argue it cannot be a dramatic upscale, because even though he is applying Conqueror's Haki Infusion to the attack, yes, he's also physically weaker, yes. So even though Garp's whole thing is not large city level, it has to be upscaled because again, he's melting away buildings. And on top of that, we have past history that would imply that Garp is outputting way more power than his AoE. But most importantly, for the final part of the guesswork here, we can look at the comparison between Master and Disciple. Because in chapter 1088, what do we see? We see Kobe with the Honesty Impact destroy that long mountain-sized arm of a Avalo Pizarro that was trying to destroy their ship. And unlike the anime version of Garp's Galaxy Impact, Kobe just breaks apart the fist. He's not pulverizing it, let alone melting it or vaporizing it. He breaks it apart, and then later on in that chapter, Prince Groose has to still block the rubble anyway. This is very similar to Pika and Zoro, where Zoro could cut apart Pika's huge body, but the debris was still going to fall onto the people. It was Elisabello II. He was the one that had to destroy all the remaining rubble of Pika that Zoro did not destroy. So this attack you could fairly categorize as a mountain level destroying move. You definitely could. And now the guesswork would come in the idea of, is Garp's Galaxy Impact stronger than Kobe's Honesty Impact? And even though Kobe is clearly destroying way more area than Garp is, Garp slaps on the Conqueror's Haki, which makes his attacks far more potent. And of course, we can't forget that Garp has way more physicality, way more physical strength than someone like Kobe. Why? Because he has better physical strength feats. So I would say ultimately, when it comes to the Galaxy Impact in the anime version, it would probably be at least a tier above Kobe's Honesty Impact, minimum. Then I would give Garp large mountain to mountain range at base. So now we're getting to the category of Law's mountain range cut. Kobe, as far as I can tell, is not using infusion for the Honesty Impact, which could destroy a mountain-sized arm. And Garp already has that past history of doing what? Destroying mountains just to train for Dan Chinjao, and at that point in time, he didn't use, as far as we know, any infusion. The manga version is a bit different. Actually, I would say significantly different. And the reason why is this. In the anime version, he melts the buildings. But in the manga version, he breaks apart, pulverizes the buildings, but he does so in a shockwave fashion. This scale is nowhere near the same scale as the anime version. However, you can power creep the attack more in the manga version than you can in the anime version. Because it's a shockwave, you can upcreep this more. Shockwaves in One Piece bypass natural defenses. They go straight for the organs, the internal mechanisms of something. They go straight for it. And then a lot of times they do the inside out damage. So we see it with the Ryo Haki that does internal damage, the advanced Ryo Haki. This is the fundamental principle of how Law does his damage. Law, his damage is done for the most part internally. He bypasses your natural defenses, says damn with that, and goes right for your organs. And Whitebeard's quakes are the same way too. A lot of his quakes, they're going through objects, they're going through people, and they're destroying your insides. Garp is able to produce a shockwave through sheer physical force, and he's amplifying the attack power of that shockwave via Conqueror's Haki. So compared to the anime version, the manga version, you could argue, does more damage because it has more unique functionalities. You don't see that in the anime version. You do see that in the manga version. Even though pulverizing is on the same tier as vaporizing, because of how shockwaves work in One Piece, you can argue he's actually outputting more power. So the manga version, in principle, would have a higher ceiling, but the baseline for the anime version is probably higher than the manga version because we still have to lean for melting and vaporizing over breaking apart. So since we had the anime version at, let's say, mountain range level, then I would argue that the manga version would be large mountain plus. However, that plus could carry a lot more weight than you would first think, where it could easily jump to mountain range plus, small island. It could go the distance simply because of how an internal shockwave based move operates in the world of One Piece. Again, it's a hard thing to gauge here because there's not necessarily much we can gauge off of for the attack power of this move. Because who took the attack were fodder, who have no history of any feats at all, and the scale is not that robust. But again, how the attack functions, you can't give it shockwave properties in the anime version, because they're not there. I don't see the Whitebeard style shockwave bubble. I don't see that there in the anime. If the anime went by Oda's vision, there would be a huge Sengoku style shockwave that would encompass all of the buildings, not just a little dome in the point of impact, and then that detonates into an even bigger explosion. But again, if we got that, then we would lose out on some insane style points. So I would say, compared to other moves, Garp's opener, not his best attack obviously, but Garp's opener on full Outlet Island is in the same ballpark I would put one of Kaido's blast breaths, and not like the huge megaton blast breaths that he does later on the arc, but the ones you would see earlier in Wano Country, the way more casual ones, not the ones that are like wiping out entire countries, because those blast breaths are easily wiping out mountains, mountain ranges, no problem. And based on Garp's history, based on the style of attack that he's doing in both anime and manga, and based on Kobe also outputting a mountain destroying move, Garp's Galaxy Impact is comparable to some of these earlier blast breaths. But right now, this is, I think, the best it could do in terms of trying to gauge how powerful Garp's attack is. If Garp, let's say, actually took out someone of note, like let's say he actually took out Seed of the Rain or Kuzan with that move, then we could use their past history to try and gauge even more so how powerful the Garp Galaxy Impact is. We don't have that, we don't have fodder, you know? So the move for an opener, for a WWE signature attack, not a finisher, a signature, the move is very impressive, for sure. And back in his heyday, in his prime, the Heian era Garp, oh, yeah. That was probably at least a tier higher on all fronts, So maybe one day in the future, Oda will actually show us a prime power Garp Galaxy Impact. But until then, this is my take on how powerful Garp's move is. Let me know your stance on the subject matter at hand. If you enjoyed the video, once again, hit your boy that thumbs up. I'm gonna catch you guys and gals on the flip side.
See you. Bye-bye.